It had been 3 months since Colt Maddox rode out of Redstone Valley, leaving behind the woman who had learned to breathe again. Evelyn Harper had returned to her quiet life, mending saddles and feeding horses, pretending that the silence didn't ache. The gossip in town still lingered, but she had grown stronger, no longer defined by her past. Then, one dry afternoon, she felt the ground trembling beneath the rhythm of hooves. When the rider appeared through the haze of dust, her heart knew before her eyes confirmed it. Colt Maddox had returned, with dust on his hat, a rifle on his back, and eyes that carried both storms and sorrow. He dismounted slowly, his voice low as he said her name. Evelyn. She tried to stay calm, but her hands trembled. "Didn't think I'd see you again," she said. He smiled faintly. Didn't plan on it either. But plans change. Inside her small wooden cabin, the air between them was heavy with things unsaid. She poured him water, noticing the weariness in his face. "You look tired," she murmured. "Been a rough trail," he replied. "A man I rode with turned on me, took something that wasn't his." She met his eyes, steady but curious. "What did he take?" Colt's jaw tightened. "My name. My honor." Evelyn understood that kind of loss. She too had been robbed of her good name by the cruelty of others. "So you came back to find it?" she asked. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe I came back because the only peace I ever found was right here." Her heart trembled at his words. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "Maybe not," he answered softly, stepping closer until she could feel the warmth of him. "But I couldn't stay gone. Not after I realized what I left behind." Evelyn turned away, afraid of the feelings rising inside her. "I'm not the woman you think I am, Colt. I'm not." He stopped her with a look that cut through her defenses. "I never asked you to be," he said, voice steady as the earth beneath them. In that moment, the walls around her heart began to fall, and the silence between them spoke louder than words. Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain and renewal, wrapping the valley in a tender hush. For the first time in a long time, Evelyn didn't feel alone. But far beyond the hills, the trouble Colt had ridden from was following fast, and soon their fragile peace would be tested like never before. The storm rolled into Redstone Valley that night, dark clouds swallowing the moon as thunder echoed through the canyons. Evelyn stood by the window, watching the rain pour in silver sheets, while Colt sat near the fire, cleaning his revolver with a quiet focus that carried the weight of something unsaid. She could feel that danger wasn't far behind him. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough, low, the way a man sounds when the truth costs him more than he wants to pay. "He's coming," Colt said. "The man who betrayed me. He won't stop until one of us is gone." Evelyn turned to him, fear flashing in her eyes. "Then you can't stay here," she whispered. "He'll find you." Colt looked up, the firelight painting his face in shades of gold and shadow. "I ain't running anymore, Evelyn. I've run my whole life from my past, from what I've done, from who I was. Not this time." She stepped closer, trembling but defiant. "And what about me, Colt? If you stay, he'll come for both of us." He rose slowly, setting the gun aside, his gaze steady and soft. "Then let him. I've got something worth standing for now." The words hit her harder than the storm outside. She wanted to tell him she wasn't worth the fight, that she was still the woman the town judged. But the way he looked at her left no room for doubt. To him, she wasn't broken. She was home. Hours later, the knock came loud, violent, echoing through the cabin. Colt moved first, calm as a man who already knew the end of his story. The door swung open to reveal a man in a long black coat, rain dripping from his hat brim, a revolver gleaming in his hand. "You should have stayed gone, Maddox," the stranger growled. Colt didn't flinch. "And miss this fine weather?" His hand hovered near his gun, steady as stone. Evelyn's breath caught as the air turned electric. In one motion, the stranger fired and Colt dove aside, the bullet splintering the doorframe. The two men clashed in a blur of thunder and flame, the cabin lit with flashes of gunfire. When it was over, the rain was the only sound left. The stranger lay still on the floor, his gun fallen from his grasp. Colt stood over him, breathing hard, one hand pressed to his side where blood darkened his shirt. Evelyn ran to him, tears blurring her vision. "Colt, no," she whispered, catching him as he stumbled. He smiled faintly, eyes soft despite the pain. Looks like peace finally found me after all. She shook her head, clutching his face. Don't you dare say that. You're not leaving me again. Outside, the storm began to fade, the first light of dawn breaking through the clouds. In that fragile light, Colt looked at her one last time, his voice barely a breath. I never asked you to be perfect, Evelyn. Just to be mine. And as the rain slowed to a whisper, Evelyn held him close, her tears mixing with the fading storm. Knowing that real love was never about the past. It was about who stayed when the world turned dark. The sun rose over Redstone Valley with a pale, uncertain light, breaking through the clouds that had wept all night. The air smelled of rain and iron. Evelyn sat on the porch, Colt's hat resting in her lap, her fingers tracing the worn leather brim. The cabin was silent except for the slow crackle of the dying fire inside. Colt Maddox was gone, carried out before dawn by men from town who didn't know what kind of man he really was. To them, he was just another drifter who found trouble. To her, he was everything she had never dared to hope for. Proof that love didn't need to be perfect to be true. The days that followed blurred together. People came and went, offering polite words and sideways glances. The sheriff called it self-defense, but Evelyn saw the guilt in his eyes. The town never liked outsiders, especially those who stood up for someone like her. Still, she kept the stable open, kept the forge burning. Life had taken enough from her already. She wasn't going to let it take her strength, too. Some nights, she'd walk out to the ridge where Colt had once stood, watching the valley stretch endlessly beneath the stars. The wind would catch her hair and whisper through the tall grass, and she could almost hear his voice in it, low, steady, and kind. You're stronger than you think. Evelyn, each time she heard it, she found the courage to keep going. One afternoon, a stranger rode into town, asking for the woman who ran the Harper stables. He was young, maybe 20, with eyes that held a shadow of the man she'd lost. He carried a worn letter in his coat and handed it to her with trembling hands. He told me to give you this, ma'am, the boy said softly. Her heart pounded as she unfolded the paper. Colt's handwriting scrawled in rough, faded lines. If you're reading this, I reckon I didn't make it far. Don't cry for me, Evelyn. I made my peace the day I met you. You showed me that the past don't decide the worth of a soul. So laugh again. Don't let this town, or my ghost, hold you still. Tears slid down her cheeks as she pressed the letter to her heart. That evening, she saddled her horse, Colt's old mare, and rode out toward the horizon. The town watched her go, whispering as they always had. But this time, she didn't hear them. She rode higher into the hills until the valley spread beneath her like a memory. The wind was warm, carrying the scent of wild sage and the echoes of a man's promise. Evelyn smiled through her tears and whispered to the sky, You never asked me to be perfect, Colt, but you made me believe I could be whole. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the world in fire and gold, she turned her horse westward and rode on, not running from her past anymore, but toward the life he'd told her she deserved. And somewhere in that vast, open silence, it felt as if he rode beside her still,